Yeah, so here we go again. I ain't done nothing all day. I did play 2 rounds of video games. I did manage out, I guess. It's been a very busy time. I had a speck on my screen, so I had to wipe it. Yesterday, half a shooting day went smoothly. I produced and directed. I do not like to direct because it's a lot of work with humans, and I do not like working with humans. It's very well probable my thesis film might not become what I originally aimed for it to be, just because the scope have changed. My thesis most certainly will change from what I had thought of. It'll be something like visual art, film as art form. I'm having a hard time saying this because I know you people watching this usually care about me, I guess, to some degree. I know some of you in real life for sure. Probably most, to be fair. But I have the feeling I'm bordering on becoming depressed on a depressive episode. Good news is I have the reason, which is I've been in conflict with rules and doing things by the book, rule obedience. Because in my opinion, that's what the book is there for, to have things done by it. I got something in my eye. But let me just read this statement. I actually prepared a statement for this because I don't want to self-incriminate on them. Now, you see, I like to think I do things by the book. Others tend to also think I do things by the book. I've recently had an oopsie. By the book, one would report oneself. Many people would not. I tried to do everything by the book, and I tried to report myself. There was too much red tape for me to make it viable for me to do so. Oh, the stuff in my eyes killing me, side note. To the point where the parties to record the oopsie took more than 10% of a day-night cycle to show up, without a heads up of waiting periods of such an extent. Shortly after reaching out to the parties, I decided that, considering the only reason to report oneself was to do it by the book as I had, out of principle. Also, not knowing whether the parties would ever show, I decided that an hour seemed a reasonable time, beyond all doubt, to have done my due diligence. To my best judgment, no one had come to any harm. So when the parties one would report an oopsie to reached out, I stated that the issue had been resolved. I am human, therefore I am not perfect, even though I am autistic. The system within which I exist is simply not made for by-the-book behaviour. So, even if I try to behave by the book, the system is constructed to disable such behaviour by adding too much red tape. I am now in the position of having to seriously reconsider my stance on by-the-book behaviour. Oh, the stuff in my eyelash or whatever. Sorry for that. Ugh. The only problem is to not stray too far from the norm. Considering I am not normal, this will be difficult. I hope to not stray too far from the book. I'll be right back. I just got to get the shit out of my eye. Shortcut. The incident which prompted this letter was this Wednesday, so that would have been 3 days ago, 3.5 days by now, actually, because it was in the early morning. Well, early. It was in the morning. Let's say it that way. I've since successfully, I guess, tried and succeeded in not driving by the book, not to the point of harming anyone, but to the point of not obeying the speed limit as strictly. And I felt bad the entire time doing it. At times in packs with others in traffic, where I wouldn't be the only one, I went as high as like 13 to 15 kph above the speed limit, which just feels wrong, man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of why I'm feeling really down currently. Yeah, okay, it might be a bit quicker. Might save like 2 traffic light cycles from driving across town. But it's just not worth it. Like, we have rules as a society, which are agreed on. Why the fuck behave outside of them? I just don't get it, you know. Some iced coffee because I'm financially irresponsible. And the funny thing is, even when I do go like 7 to 10 above the speed limit, which in those cases is at most like 13% because of like a 60 speed limit, I'm still being overtaken by people. And I just feel like I'm really wrong for speeding. But there's lots of people going quicker than me, not 1 or 2, but like half of all the people. I just don't get it. Yeah, so I've been reconsidering my stance on by the book behaviour, as I stated in my statement, which I wrote, I guess. I think I'm close enough to come to a conclusion that I can utter it, which is, it may not be for everyone, but for me there is no serious alternative, I guess. It's just too much internal conflict. I mean, additionally, I did have a lot to do for uni in the past week, which probably was also a contributor. For both the oopsie happening and not feeling so well. And my place had fallen into a state of a mess, to put neatly. I mean, just haven't cleaned up after myself. I do aim to do so, like, latest tomorrow, hopefully today. But that probably don't help either, to be fair. It being in that state, that is, not cleaning it up. Not cleaning it up. There we go. Yeah, just feel bloody weird, you know. Like driving 40 kph through 30 speed limit because there's roadworks, or there was roadworks. Like, it's not quite criminal, but it's not far away from it. And when I've driven with some other cars, which were even quicker than me then, but just, you know, from traffic lights you start and you go together, or you go after each other and you drive the same car, same speed the other car go. At times I had to hard limit myself at like 18 kph over in a 60 speed limit, so like nearing 30%, 30%. Just because from 21 on you can get points, and I'm not going to do that. Like, not that I don't care for points, I probably don't actually care for them, to be fair. But there is speed limits for reasons. And going a third over the speed limit, if the speed limit's already the maximum or is allowed to be in settlements, just seem nuts, man. I'll probably come back to circle around back to this later, but some other things. Is it possible questions are yes/no questions. Same thing for the German language. Yet uni has uploaded a series of quizzes which were titled A Singular Quiz. I've already done more than one, so theoretically I got my ass covered. But they ask questions like, is it possible, or is it a possibility that, and the potential answers you can give are true or false. Is it a possibility that? Yes or no? If you want true or false, just propose a possibility without a question mark. You almost insulted school there. Ooh. That's even though I quite like that tutor. It's actually a prof. It's just bloody weird, you know. Like, one thing, in one of the highest forms of education there is in this country, people be capable of using the language appropriately. Like, it's not like that's a high-level, complex boxed sentence with 5 sub-sentences. There's a sentence with 1 sub-sentence, and you manage to fuck it up within the first 2 words. Or 3. Is there a possibility? Besteht die Möglichkeit? Möglichkeit. 3rd word. You fucked up the question. Well, actually the first one, because besteht is already implying a question. And a question is not to be answered with true or false, but yes or no, or big answers. Like, come on. You people have doctorates, in this case several. It can't be that hard. Like, really, come on. It's not fucking rocket science, you know. And the quizzes was permanently titled only a quiz, and I was looking for big quiz button and I couldn't find it. Till today, a peer whom I'd had a presentation with on Wednesday for that very course, they texted me early today saying, oh, by the way, it's not a quiz. You just have to go through these things, and at the end there's 2 questions each or so. Which seemed like a bloody ridiculous joke, you know, because it's not a quiz. If you're saying there is a quiz, singular, language, I know, it's a hard thing. But I'm confident you have like C1 or 2 levels, because you're most certainly a national. Probably you were born here, and you've certainly lived here a long time. Like, come on. It's not that hard a fucking language. It's not the easiest, particularly for foreigners, it's not easy to learn, I'll fully admit that. But for people who've lived here for many a decade, and who work in the language professionally, you should be able to differentiate between a quiz or multiple quizzes. In German it would be Quizze. But it's not Quiz. Ein Quiz is singular. Mehrere Quiz, maybe, but then you can't say a. That has to be multiple quiz. That's the way you want to declinate it. But you still got to use the right article, man. Like, it's kind of frustrating for me, honestly. In case you hadn't noticed. And it's not even a matter of the quiz is, with them passing them, it's not even a matter of understanding the subject matter. It's a matter of reading comprehension. Just because one of the questions was phrased, is it possible that things do not do this? In the previous text it was stated, oh, in exceptional cases, things cannot follow this rule. So the answer to is it possible is yes, or true if you have true or false. But true was the wrong answer. Because who knows why the people who wrote the questions don't know the answers. It's just frustrating for me, sorry for this. Not meaning to shout at you. It's not your fault people are stupid. But the people are retarded, to quote Osho. Memes, yay. In other news, it's 9 to 7 in the PM, and it's 22.5 degrees centigrade. And it's probably about mid humidity, by gut at least. Which is warm. Tomorrow I'm likely to open up for film club just because I can. So I proposed, no one's responded yet, so I'm assuming I'm opening up. Wednesday is a bank holiday. And I believe I'll only have like 2 lectures this week. Let me just double check. One... Well, theoretically it's 3, but one of them is not happening because we're already making our project. So I'll probably just do that like tomorrow. It's just a reading of Dylan Thomas's Do Not Go Quietly Into Good Night, with some cinematic visuals because low effort, you know. And then on Friday we've got a shoot, which I don't know what my role is. I suppose I'm a gaffer. But realistically, I'll be helping the second semesters do everything because they haven't had any courses on technology, and yet they are expected to use it. It's just kind of sad, you know. I mean, the highest form of education there is, to my understanding, and the people are not capable of speaking the formal governmental language of the country for exercises. Well, not even speaking, writing. You can proofread for that shit. You can give it to other people to proofread. For a fuck ton of money. Money, other tangent, I might circle back around or I might just forget. I spent $50 at the shops today. Was a small shopping, but got some fancy shit. And it's really irresponsible of me. Like, I got a screw in my back left tyre, but I dare not touch it because it's not losing air. And I cannot currently afford a new tyre. I'll have to wait for my government grant, BAföG, my student grant / credit, to be granted, and then I can afford new tyres. I only need 2 of them, so it could be worse. And it's only the back. It's front wheel drive car, so it's not too bad really. Still legal, and it's still good enough. So, yeah, I shouldn't be spending the money on snacks. I am. Admittedly, here I snack more than elsewhere. Yesterday for the shoot, I did buy some snacks. I spent like €30 on snacks and drinks for crew and cast. At least I'll have set a good example, so the others of the course, who are all semesters below me, will know to provide food and snacks. Snacks and drinks. Food and drinks, there we go. Because I set a good example. I'll have to do post on what we shot yesterday. I might work with proxies or I might just brute force it because it's only like 2 shots. Originally it had been 4, but for stage sake, because I didn't want the entire production moving, we actually narrowed it down to 2, combining shot 1 and 2 in both perspectives, so that's something, you know. Oh, other news, not happy news, sadly. Surprise, sadly means not happy news. I've killed my first plant. From previous episodes, you might be able to tell I've tried growing some plants. I'm trying to grow some plants due to it being legal and me feeling the responsibility of owing it to past generations to now do it now that I legally can, and they were not able to, so it's kind of a debt owed, I guess, by society to them, and I am part of society, or society considers me part of it. So I'm doing the best I can to make that debt square. And my first plant died the other day, either through overwatering or over fertilizing. I already had a spare seed, hopefully sprouting. Don't actually know if that was successful, but I'm trying to improve my patience, so I'll just leave it in its thing and water it on a regular basis. It matters to those plants with the tangent of money as well. I actually spent like $25 not long ago on buying some surface mount LEDs from China. They're supposed to be 50 watts. They aren't drawing quite 50 watts, but I'm quite happy about that because they're already getting quite hot. To the point where I thermal pasted them to some aluminium, and it's still bloody hot. But once they're hot, they actually draw less power, so I guess it's their status quo operating, I don't know. But I bought 10 of those. They run off net voltage AC, 230 AC, so they have integrated power circuits. It's kind of odd how that works, I guess. On managing, it should work. I mean, I don't see a problem really. I am kind of concerned about fire safety and all, so I'm not leaving them plugged in for now, and when I'm not there, and I just left them plugged in for a while testing. Considering I haven't even grounded the aluminium plate I thermal masked them to, I'm very careful with them. But the LEDs are significantly powerful. I mean, I got like what a lux of 26,000 measured with this phone, smack dab in front of the light. When two of them were drawing 30 watts together. So that's not too bad, I guess. I might actually have to figure out a proper system of mounting them. And I will have to make sure to dissipate heat, and I'll have to figure out a way of putting them on a clock without smart home shit, just because I don't like Hue all that much. My Hue bridge don't seem to work, or Hue bridges just in general broke. It's probably mine, but I wouldn't know. I'm not spending another 80 bucks on another. I can't afford it, so I guess I'll find out. But I'll just get one of them socket inline spinny things that does time for growing the plants. For now, it's not a concern because I first got to sort out all the lights. Considering it's only 30 watts for two of the cob surface light, cob LEDs, which are supposed to be 50 watts each. I did have them in parallel, not in series, so it shouldn't be affected by that. It should have been 100 watts. But who knows, it's Chinesium. Could just be they are 15 watts when they're underperforms, but I'm not too fussed, and they do make a lot of light, like far. Once I stepped back out into my room, I actually saw green, just because they don't have green as subcolor. They don't produce green light, they produce full spectrum optimized for plants. So I saw everything with plus green tint because the light is minus green, and my eyes adjusted to it. It's fucking crazy, man. Yeah, so anyways, I got a second attempt, well, second or third, I guess it's more of a third really. I got a third attempt of growing going right now. I do actually need water in twice a day, just because I have a fan permanently blowing some air past it to keep air circulation, which means the water do evaporative cool the soil and or the plant, whatever. I'm hoping I'll have at least like 4 or 5 more days before I'm too impatient and unearth the plant. Last time that didn't kill it, so I guess it could be worse. But then I'll at least have certainty I actually have a plant. Because with the first go round, which I might have not updated you, that never hatched, so that weren't too great. The seeds are supposed to be good. They're from the Netherlands, so there's no problem with that. It's funny how that worked, really. Overall, I suspect growing plants indoors is going to draw like, first off, 18 hours, because the fan's not going to take barely anything power-wise. So for 18 hours while growing, 12 while flowering, it's probably going to draw something like 50 watts, which I believe is within the power budget I can afford. Assuming I don't at the same time also render, my power consumption shouldn't go up from when I rendered a lot for Working Title Smoke and Mirrors. That's a good tangent. Working Title Smoke and Mirrors, I now actually finally have the mastered audio. I'm just missing the licensing agreement from the composer and just the score soundtrack. I got the mastered, so I've watched it and I like it. I can actually watch it in one sitting. I can watch 20 minutes, 24 seconds non-stop, one sitting. Which for me is a challenge. Like, I can't do that with regular shit, so I'm happy. I got compliments from both my directors of study and tutor I showed it to. So apparently it's quite the shit. I most certainly will hand it in with some festivals. I might upload on YouTube eventually once I'm through the festival circuit. Well, it's uploaded on YouTube already, but you ain't getting to see it. It's unlisted. And I ain't putting it on playlists, man. I'm not risking festival entries for the sake of YouTube. And you'll get to see it eventually. The final file was like 40 gigs for 20 minutes. That's not too bad. It's like 2 gigs a minute. Come on, that's not bad at all, considering it's what 21 by 9, 1440p. I'm quite happy with that. Is it 1440? It might be 2160, 21 by 9. Like, it's big screen resolution, man. I don't got to worry about resolution. It's better than films that were released 5 years ago. So I got technology down. This week I held 3 presentations. I mentioned it earlier. That I'd held one. I did equally much preparation for any of them, which means I did my bit for the slides. In one case, I didn't even have to do the slides themselves. And beside that, nothing. And I still rocked all the presentations. With the last one, which was on directing for a director's style, I did not meet the expectations of the tutor, but that's because the tutor cared for the visual style. But in my opinion, the visual style does not matter with director. That's a DOP kind of thing, not a director kind of thing. And I had the best primary source one could have, which was the director themselves, Scorsese, Martin, because they have a masterclass, and I have a friend who was willing to give me access to their account so I could watch it again, because we watched it together the first time. So I got it from the horse's mouth, and I'm confident my presentation was representative of what we were supposed to do. Considering there was not a briefing in PDF form, I cannot fail, to my understanding at least. I should do my due diligence and contact examination office about it, just because it can't be that I have my disability accommodation granted and no one gives a shit. Part of the disability accommodation is I don't have to facilitate it myself. It'll work. I mean, hell, what could go wrong? My smoking behaviour for a lot of the week was surprisingly high. Yesterday, even though it was a long day, was actually below median. Yesterday after the shoot, I went eating with my directing assistant. We got like wraps, so we both spent £10 each for some warm food, and that was totally worth it. Like, I really like them as a person, I guess. I don't know. It's funny how that works. Wrapping back around. I don't know how to bring up to either the prof or the uni that one cannot ask, is it a possibility, and then expect a true or false answer. Because one expect them to be capable and fluent of the language they're teaching in, of the country they're in. It's not even like this is international English issues. It's Germany, and it's fucking German. I don't know how to bring it up to them, because I can say, have you considered there might be some mistakes? But if they don't come back with no, I have to say, oh, you might have missed something. But I really don't want to do the diplomatic way, because that's not going to get no results. Like, I know that from past experience. But I also can't tell them, you can't German. Have someone proofread your questions, please, mister. Mrs. Miss. There we go. That's the binaries covered, and or a person. That's everyone covered. There we go. I just feel it's fucking odd. Like, I don't know how to bring this up with them. How do you tell someone their primary language skills are insufficient for asking a question in such a language without insulting them? I had considered just asking them a question of, is it possible these kind of questions are not answerable? True, false. Because that's what they did. They asked, is it possible, true, false? Is it possible is not to be answered with true, false. It's yes or no, or maybe, or perhaps. It's not true, false. It's not Boolean. This is not programming. Oof. Got very excited there. Ho ho. It's not a Boolean thing. It's not programming. True, false is not the options there is supposed to be. And even then, the questions are supposed to show you understand the subject matter and not their sentences, which don't always make sense. Like, come on, people, grow up. I would say get a job, but you have a job, so get a haircut. Get a job, get a haircut and get a real job. Oh, George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Fuck, that's some old music. It's older than me. Damn. But things like this, I'll never understand because, I mean, I can write a nice and formal message to them. I'll manage that. But it might go over their head because if you can't ask a question in a language, how is one supposed to tell you indirectly or nicely that the language might be above your skill level? Like, in that language, you can't. I could say, have you considered getting someone to proofread it? And then they'll say, oh yeah, someone proofread it. And they'll have someone just as incompetent having proofread it all. I'm like, nah. This is just really frustrating. Same as, have you considered perhaps mentioning there is multiple quiz? Is whatever you, however you declinate quiz. Multiple, not a singular. Don't care how you declinate it. Can you even language? Yeah, and I've been in kind of an identity crisis with the rule following, another subject background, I guess. I suspect that's the primary reason for me being down lately, as of late. It's just kind of a bummer, you know. Shit. Don't like it. Do you know what bottle it is? Because I'm financially irresponsible. And I'll have spent a £5 on just snacks for while sitting here. Probably more than a £5. Then again, I still smoke. And I probably smoke more than a £5 a day. So financial responsibility is something I need to learn. I believe I got literacy, but responsibility is something else, and I ain't got that. How do you tell someone? Can you even language, comma, bro? Like, I don't know how. How do you tell someone they're incompetent without insulting them? I guess is the question. But assuming they are superior, you can't tell them they're incompetent because that is insulting them in the first place. Even though it might be objectively true and measurable. Anyways, I hope you don't have internal conflicts such as rule obedience in your life. And I also hope the people you language with can language. Stay safe. Cheerio.